Welcome to Nursery Lessons. You know, I'm not a fan of broad categorizations of anything. You know, for instance, the statement 2020 has been a horrible year. But it's pretty hard to argue with that one. You know, whether it's personally, professionally, just in all aspects of life, whether it's social unrest or the pandemic or protesting or you know, there's something in hurricanes, natural disasters, fires. It seems like 2020 has dealt us a significant amount of negative events, and it's hard to argue that point. But as I've had conversations with people, you know, it's always good to know we've been through hard times before and we'll get through. Others have gotten through this. And you know, whether you lean on your faith, you lean on others. But I wanted to take a second and talk about a story, you know, going back to the whole theme of nursery lessons, and it's borrowing things that I learned along the way in my first few years of working in the garden centers and horticulture industry. And today's lesson is about the longleaf pine. If you're not familiar with the longleaf pine, I don't want to get into that right now, but if you get on internet search, Google, what have you, and just type in longleaf pine, it'll bring up what that is. But it's an evergreen pine tree, a conifer. And here's what's unique about that plant. When a longleaf pine first, the seed germinates and it begins to grow, it spends a lot of time growing its taproot, or that root that goes down deep in to the ground. And it actually just looks like a tuft of grass on the top. It doesn't shoot up like a normal tree with a stalk or a stem or a trunk and branches. It's just grass. And, you know, I think some of us can relate to that. It feels like we're not growing. We're struggling, but we're not seeming to get where we want to go. We're just fighting and fighting and fighting. Well, you know, if you're growing that taproot, maybe that's a good thing. So, but again, that's just one aspect. But to finish out the story of that tree, you know, all of the trees around it may be growing much faster, but once that tree does start to grow, it grows straight and it grows fairly rapidly. But because of that taproot system and because of all of the work that went into growing, the tree becomes very hardy and the wood becomes very strong, which is also not characteristic of a lot of pine trees. Now, if you know anybody that's been in timber management or forestry management, or especially if you've ever lived in the Southeast, you've been through those times of the year where they do these controlled burns, where they light the forest on fire, and that's to burn out the underbrush. And here's what's unique about that is when they burn that up, if you can imagine, they light it on fire, and if you just think about that, they light the forest on fire. That should be catastrophic. It should be damaging. You're engulfed in flames. And do we feel like we're engulfed in flames sometimes? Sure. Do we feel like we don't grow fast enough? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Because you took your time, because the longleaf pine took its time and grew the right way, those flames, instead of being detrimental to that plant, they were detrimental to that underbrush and those things that were choking out the plant and fighting for nourishment. And so that once those things are gone, the plant almost has free reign. It has all the nourishment. It's not competing with anything else. But also that all of that debris, all of that burned and charred debris and field of vegetation that was growing underneath becomes a fertilizer for that tree. So what it was causing its struggles then caught on fire, which looked like an even bigger struggle. But those struggles all combined with one another help that plant to not only survive through, but thrive on the other end. So whether it's slow growth today, whether you're being crowded out, whether you feel like you're on fire, just know that if you've grown the right way, that you'll make it through, and that those things which were holding you back actually become the things that propel you forward. So again, I know it's hard when you're in that, when you're in the fire, when you're in the tangle, when you're not growing, to hear somebody say something like this, but I can attest to my own personal life. I have been through those points where I'm not growing. I have been through those times when I felt like I was being choked out. I have been through those fires that felt like surely this one's got me. But just remember, don't take the shortcuts. grow the right way, you'll be able to persevere and withstand those things that are there to destroy you, and they'll actually propel you to greatness. So again, hopefully that's not too cliche, but it is true. I've experienced it, and the longleaf pine is a great example of perseverance. So again, hopefully that helped you, and I look forward to bringing more things like this to you in the near future. Thank you.